Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. How are you? Where do you think you're going? Are you leading services tonight? If you want to lead services, I'm happy to let you. I'm always open for new people. Not tonight? In a couple years, if she wants to lead, I'm happy to let her. Well, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Shabbat Shalom, and for those, for our guests, welcome. We're glad you're here to welcome Shabbat with us and to join us this evening, so thank you for being here and for joining us. For our non-guests, we're glad you're here, and we're glad you're here to celebrate and welcome Shabbat with us. And those watching virtually, Shabbat Shalom to y'all too, and we're glad to celebrate with you, and glad you're joining us this evening as well. We're going to go ahead and begin our service this evening. I'll give you a couple little brief introductions and notes here. You're going to want to use this book, for those who don't know. It's called a Siddur. It comes from a Hebrew word for order, because this gives us the order of the prayers that we're going to be reciting tonight. The first half of our service is called Kabbalat Shabbat, which means welcoming Shabbat. It's a service that was created by the mystics in the 16th century or 15th century, who imagined that Shabbat was the queen who was exiled from her husband, God, for 6 days of the week. But on Shabbat, they're reunited. And so if you can imagine, while some of you might be excited to be away from your spouses for 6 days, they didn't imagine that that was the case, and they imagined that this was an exciting time, a time of excitement and reunification and enthusiasm. So that's kind of the spirit of the first half of the service. The service is kind of structured. There's going to be a welcoming, the kind of an opening song, which will begin on page 10 if you want to start finding your pages. And then there's 6 psalms from the book of Psalms that we'll sing, that we'll recite together, that represent the 6 days of the week, before we'll welcome in the Shabbat bride and welcome her in, and I'll explain when we get a little closer to that the next steps. So we'll begin with our opening song. It's called Yedid Nefesh, page 10. If you look, there's the Hebrew on the right side of the page. There's translations on the left. If you look, there's also in red, there will be a lot of transliteration. There'll be the Hebrew words written out into English letters if you want to try to sing along. And then in the margin, on the outer margin, there's kind of some additional readings or things to kind of contemplate or think about in the spirit of that song. So you can kind of take which option fits you best today. Again, we'll begin, page 10. Yedid nefesh av harachaman b'shoch avdach Eretzonach Yarutz avdach kamo haya Yishtachaveh mul hadarach Ki yerav lo yedidutach מנופת צוף וכל טעם הדור נאה זיו העולם נפשי חולת אהבתך אנא אל נא רפנה לה בהרות לה נועם זיווך אז תתחזק ותתרפא והייתה לך שפחת עולם ותקיימו רחמך וחוסנה על בן אוהבך כי זה כמה נחשוף לראות בתפארת עוזך אנא אלי מחמד ליבי חושנה ואל תתעלם יגאלנה ופרוס חביב עלי את סוכת שלומך תאיר ארץ מכבודך נגילה ונשמחה בך מהר אהוב כי במועד וכונני כי מעולם Yananana, 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 yanana, yananana, 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 yanana, yananana, 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 yananana. We'll continue page 11 with the first of the Psalms, Psalm 95. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Naria, naria, letzur yishenu, nekadma fanav petodah. Naria, naria, letzur yishenu, bizmirot naria lo. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Naria letzur sheneka, bizmirot naria lo. We continue privately. Pick up at the red arrow, page 12. Arba'im shana kud bedor v'amaram to'e levavhem v'hem lo yadu drachai asher nishpati v'apihi imivuhun el menuchati. As we continue with Psalm 96 on page 13, we're going to sing this song all together. It does kind of have a repetitive tune, so if you can't follow the words, but you pick up the tune, feel free to just do it without the words, like a ta-na-nai, la-la-lai, la-la-la, whatever works best. Feel free to join in whichever way you're comfortable with. Continue page 13. שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, בסרו מיום ליום ישועתו, ספרו בגויים כבודו, בכל העמים נפלאותיו, כי גדול אדוני ומהולל מאוד, נורא הוא על כל אלוהים, איי, כי כל אלוהי העמים אלילים, ואדוני שמיים עשה הוד והדר לפניו, עוז ותפארת במקדשו. הבו לאדוני משפחות העמים, הבו לאדוני כבוד ועוז, הבו לאדוני כבוד שמו. שאו מנחה ובואו לחצרותיו, איי, השתחוו לאדוני בהדר הקודש, חילו מפניו כל הארץ. אמרו בגויים אדוני מלך, אף תיכון תבל בל תימוד. ידין עמים במישרים, ישמחו השמיים ותגר הארץ. ירם הים ומלואו, יעלוז שדי וכל אשר בו, איי, אז ירננו כל הצייר לפני אדוני, כי בא לשפוט הארץ, ישפוט תבל בצדק ועמים באמונתו. ינננה 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 Continue, Psalm 97, page 15. Adonai melech tagel haaretz, yismechu im rahabim, anan v'rafel sevivahav, tzedek mishpat mechon kiso. We'll continue privately. Adonai sinura, shomer nefashot chasidav, miyad rashayim yatzilehem. Oizaru ala tzadik ulrishei rev, simcha, simchu tzadikim b'Adonai, v'hodu lezecher kodsho. We'll continue with Psalm 98, beginning on page 17. We'll read responsively in the English, this psalm beginning on page 17. A psalm, sing to Adonai a new song, for Adonai has wrought wonders. God's right hand and holy arm have brought deliverance. God dealt faithfully and kindly with the house of Israel. The very ends of the earth saw our God's saving power. Let the sea and all that is in it roar, the earth and all who inhabit it thunder. Let rivers clap hands while mountains sing in harmony, greeting Adonai who comes to judge the earth, judging the world with justice and the nations with truth. Bifni Adonai kiva lishpot aretz yishpot tevel betzedek v'amim b'meishari. Continue, page 19, Psalm 99. Adonai malach yegezu amim yoshev kruvim tanut aretz anay b'tzion gadoho v'ramhu al kol hamim. So we'll join together at the red arrow, 3 lines from the bottom, page 20. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu vehishtachavu lehar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu vehishtachavu lehar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. As we continue to Psalm 29, the 6th and final of the 6 Psalms that I mentioned at the beginning, we rise. I invite you to rise as we sing together, page 21. Mizmor leDavid, havu l'Adonai b'nei Elim, havu l'Adonai, kavod va'oz, havu l'Adonai, kevod shemo, ishtachavu l'Adonai behadra kodesh, kol Adonai al hamayim, el hakavod hirim, Adonai al mayim rabim, kol Adonai bakoach, kol Adonai behadar, kol Adonai shover arazim, vayshaber Adonai et arzei halvanon, vayarkidem kmo egel Levanon v'Sirion kemo venrei mimayai, kol Adonai chotzev lahavot esh, kol Adonai chil midbar, yachil Adonai midbar kadesh, kol Adonai yechol elayalot, vayechesov ye'arot uvhechalo kulo omer kavod, Adonai lamabul yashav vayeshev, Adonai melech leolam, Adonai oz le'amo yitein, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. Ta na 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 na, ya na 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 na, ya na 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 na, ya na. You may be seated. So as I mentioned at the beginning, the rabbis, the mystics would imagine that the bride would be coming in and Shabbat. So this was kind of the introduction to the bride arriving and Shabbat arriving. And the next psalm is kind of her welcome song. You know, when the bride comes in, there's always a song to welcome in the bride at a wedding, right? Yes? And when the bride actually enters the room, what do? You stand and you turn to face her as she comes in. So we're going to begin the Lecha Dodi, which is the kind of the welcoming of the bride song. It begins on page 23, but you'll see at page 25, at the bottom, it says, we rise and turn to the entrance. That's kind of the moment when we imagine the bride walking in to the room and joining us to start Shabbat. So we'll begin on page 23 as we welcome her in. And I'll pause for a moment. I'll tell you to rise when we get to that point at the end. You can sit for right now. Take a load off, relax, but we'll get there. Lecha dodi likra kala yanana 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 pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likra kala yanana 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 pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor vezachor b'dibor echad, hishmiyanu el hamyuchad. Adonai echad ushmo echad, l'shem ultiferet Nekabela lecha dodi likra kala yananai 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 pnei Shabbat. Nekabela likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha כי היא מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה, לך דודי לקרא קלה ינני 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 פני שבת, נקבלה, לך דודי לקרא קלה ינני 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 פני שבת, נקבלה, מקדש מלך מלוכה, קומי צאי מתוך ההפכה, רב לך שבט בעמק הבכה, והוא יחמול עלייך חמלה, לך דודי לקרא קלה ינני 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 פני שבת, נקבלה, לך דודי לקרא קלה ינני 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 פני שבת, נקבלה. Page 24. התנערי מעפר קומי, לבשי בגדי תפארתך עמי, על יד בן ישי בית הלחמי, קורבה אל נפשי גאלה, לך דודי לקרא קלה ינני 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 פני שבת, נקבלה, לך דודי לקרא קלה ינני 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 פני שבת, נקבלה, התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, 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 שדברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה, לך דודי לקרא קלה ינני 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 פני שבת, נקבלה, לך דודי לקרא קלה ינני 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 פני שבת, נקבלה, לא תבושי ולא תקלמי, מה תשתוכחי ומה תהמי, בך יחסו עניי עמי, ונבנתה יהירתי לה, לך דודי לקרא קלה ינני 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 פני שבת, נקבלה, לך דודי לקרא קלה ינני 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 פני שבת, נקבלה. Page 25. והיו למשי ששוסייך, ורחקו קומב עלייך, יסיס עלייך אלוהיך, כמסוס חתנה על כלה, לך דודי לקרא קלה ינני 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 פני שבת, נקבלה, לך דודי לקרא קלה ינני 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 פני שבת, נקבלה, ימין ושמאל תפרוצי, ואת אדוני תריצי, על יד איש בן פרצי, ונשמחה ונגילה, לך דודי לקרא קלה ינני 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 פני שבת, נקבלה, לך דודי לקרא קלה ינני 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 פני שבת, נקבלה, בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי לקרא קלה ינני 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 פני שבת, נקבלה, לך דודי לקרא קלה ינני 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 פני שבת, נקבלה. You may be seated. Now that Shabbat is here and we've welcomed her in, we'll continue with Psalm 92 because, if you look at it, it's appropriately titled, page 27, a Psalm for Shabbat. So there, it's an appropriate one to continue next with. So Psalm for Shabbat, page 27. Mizmor, mizmor, shir, shir leyom ha-Shabbat. 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 טוב, להודות לנו על איזה אנשים Join together at the red arrow, middle of page 28. צדיק, כתמר יפרח, כרז בלבנון יזכה, שתולים בבית הנאה, בחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו. עוד ינבון בשיבה, דשנים ורעננים יהיו, להגיד כי ישר אדוני צורי, ולא הבלעת בו. And we'll continue Psalm 93, page 29. אדוני מלך, גאו לבש, לבש עניוס, היטה זהרת, גבעון תבל, בעל תימו. נכון כסך. מקולות מים רבים מרירים משפרי ים, אדיר במרום אדוני. עדותיך נאמנו מאוד, לבדך נאווה קודש, עוני רוערך ימים. And at this point, we're going to conclude this portion of the service with the Mourner's Kaddish, as we invite all those who are in mourning or those observing a Yurtzeit, the anniversary of a loved one's death. Please rise and join me, page 30. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומייכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם עולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשא בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו amen. Maybe see at this time, before we go on, I like to take a moment during this time. As one of my teachers, Rabbi Sharon Brous in Los Angeles, always says, is that the true sign of a community is not just how you celebrate together. Celebrating together is easy. It's nice to be able to come together for joyous occasions, but it's also in how you mourn together and how you support each other in harder times. So I want to take a moment at this time, if there's anybody who wants to share anything, if it was a rough thing or stressful thing or a bad thing that happened this week, if you want to share it so we as a community can be here to support you and share it together. If there's any good things you have so we can celebrate with you, any happy occasions, anything to celebrate together, feel free to share that as well. And we'd love to be able to share together bits of our lives this week. Anybody have anything they want to share? I'll start off while you guys are meditating on what to say. This week was the first week of school for both of my children. So I think I'm more excited for it than they were. Not that they weren't excited, but I think, it's hard to get in a routine. For those who might not know, I just moved here a couple months ago. So when you're moving over the summer, it's kind of hard to set a routine and daily activities. But now that they're in school, I think it'll be a little easier for all of us trying to get that routine. So I'm excited for them. I'm excited for my family. So that was good news for us this week. And they all survived the first week of school, which was even better. Anybody else have anything they'd like to share? Good. I'm glad to hear it started off well, and wish him a refuah shlema, that we hope he has a complete, quick, full recovery for us. So please send him our love and that we're thinking about him.
I have a kind of bad thing that started something new. A couple of weeks ago, I don't know if you all read it, on AL.com, a young man that I mentored his mother, and my friend mentors him, mentored him, was found in a car shot. And his mother had the hardest time. We were able to pay for the funeral to take that off of her, raising up funds to help her for the next 6 months while she gets herself and her children acclimated to that loss. But she's so passionate, she was passionate beforehand, but she's so passionate that she wants to start a program that saves other youth from what happened to them happening to their mom. I mean, what happened to her son, I'm still shaking Lady Rich today. What happened to her son happening to other youth, and we're about to start that program to save the youth in our community in Birmingham.
Please send her our love and let her know we'll be mourning with her for the loss of her son, and sending her thoughts of love and comfort as she mourns, and wishing B'Hatzlacha, good luck on the program, and that it may achieve its goals and purposes. Anybody else want to share anything?
I guess I'll share. In my tradition, we call it testimony, where we're overcome by testimony, and we are able to, in this space, share our truth. It's been a stressful week. Let me just say that. Thank you so much. And if I'm slurring, I just got Invisalign yesterday, and so that's another thing. But
You sound good to me, don't worry.
thank you so much. That is a black preacher's voice. Okay. What I can say is that, and this is more for where we are deriving here in the city of Birmingham. I work for the Human Rights Campaign. I'm the state lead, and we are going to be incredibly visited by one of the highest ambassadors for human rights on LGBTQ plus globally, known as the United Nations. And some folks in the room got an email. That is remarkable for them to be able to choose our city and our state to do some research and aid us where we're going, knowing that we're a civil rights state, and we still haven't figured it out. Obviously, we're still discriminating marginalized communities. I lift that up because I will need your thoughts, and for those that pray, and for those that send synergy out, it will be a busy day to host this high, profile individual in our city. And so, although that is stressful, I'm very honored that they saw fit, to come to Birmingham and be with my community and see the good that Birmingham has to offer. It is the 17th, next Wednesday, so I'll be working all weekend, and so we're very excited about it, but please keep us in good thoughts, and also, as a transplant here, welcome to Birmingham.
Thank you. That is an awesome honor, and I know all the work that you will be doing to prepare will be worth it and will pay off. And thank you for making sure that happens. And I hope, the word Shabbat comes from a Hebrew word which kind of means to rest. That God, on the seventh day, Shabbat vayinafash, as we'll read in the Hebrew in one of the blessings later. So I hope you're able to get some rest over the weekend and to be able to recharge and take care of yourself so that you can be your best leading forward to it. For those who shared, thank you very much for doing so. I know it's not always easy doing a public space on the spot. For those who didn't share, I hope you'll share over dinner and keep conversations going and be there to support and care for each other. At this time, we're going to come back to our books. We're going to turn to page 39A, as we're going to move into the evening prayer part of our service. In the Jewish tradition, there's three services a day. There's the morning, the afternoon, and the evening. We've kind of welcomed in Shabbat, so we're going to continue with that evening service. Again, big page 39A, as I invite you to rise. Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach. Adonai hamborach leolam vaed. You may be seated. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvarohu mariv aravim. We continue privately. Umavir yom umehevi laila, umavdir ben yom uvein laila, Adonai tzavot shemo. El chai v'kayam, te'amidim lo chaleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, hamari v'haravim. Continue page 40. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael amcha ahavta. Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadeta. Al ken Adonai Eloheinu, b'shochveinu v'kumeinu, nasiach bechukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, u'v'mitzvotecha, le'olam va'ed. Ki hem chayenu ve'orech yameinu ve'orech yameinu. Uvahem nege yomam v'layla, yomam v'layla. V'avarcha tasir mimenu l'olamim, Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך. והיה אם שמות תשמור מצוותיי אשר אנוכי מצווה אתכם היום להבא את אדוני אלוהיכם ולעובדו בכל לבבכם ובכל נפשכם. ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור. אדוני אלוהיכם אמת, ואמונה כזאת וקיים עלינו כי עונה עלינו ותלת תמלך ישראל עולמו. Page 43a. Join together at the top, page 44. ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה ומרים ובני ישראל, לחנו שירה בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות תוסף אלה. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקיים לפני משה, זה לי ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל. Page 45. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו מכנו לחיים ופלוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. ושמור את צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום אתה ויד עולם ופלוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ברוך אתה אדוני. הפורס סוכת שלום עלינו והכל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים. We rise as we turn to page 46 for a special section about Shabbat and our observance of it. Top of page 46. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. Middle of page 46. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ברמה דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשא בריחו לעילה מן כה ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דהמירן בעלמא ואמרו amen. We'll remain standing for the Amidah, which a series of blessings that we say, which begin on page 47 and go through page 52. Please feel free to use the Hebrew on the right side of the page. You may also read the English on the left side of the page, or also feel free to use this time for your own personal prayers to God as well. We'll continue privately. Ta-na-na-na-na-na sfatai tifta, ta-na-na-na-na-na-na ufi-agi tehilatecha. If you're still praying, please take your time and finish at your own pace. We'll continue at page 51 in the middle of the page with the seventh blessing, the prayer for peace. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. V'tov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. We'll continue as we rise, page 53. ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבא, ויחל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישפוט ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה. ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה. האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, קונה שמיים וארץ. מגן אבות בדברו, מחיי מתים במאמרו. האל הקדוש שאין כמוהו, המניח לעמו ביום שבת קודשו. כי בם רצה להניח להם, כי בם רצה להניח להם. לפניו נבוא ביראה ופחד, ונודה לשמו בכל יום תמיד, מאון הברכות. אל ההודעות, אדון השלום, מקדש השבת, מברך שביעי, ומניח בי קדושה, למדו שני עונג, זכר למעשה, למעשה וראשית. Page 54. Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'tzeh v'mnuchatenu kadshenu b'mitzvotecha v'ten chelkenu b'toratecha sabenu mituvecha v'samchenu b'shuatecha v'taheh libenu לעובדך באמת, והנחילנו, אדוני אלוהינו, באהבה וברצון, שבת קודשך, ינוחו בה ישראל, מקדשי שמך. ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת. Page Page 54. Yikra v'yikra shamei rabba. Barmat divrach chirutei v'yamlich machutei b'chaychon v'yamechon v'chay decho beit Yisrael b'gala v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevarach. Le'olam olam me'almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipar v'yitrman v'yitnaseh v'yitara v'yitela v'yitala shmei dekudsha brechu leila min kol b'yachata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata damiran b'arma v'imru Amen Tikabal telotonu v'arud hon d'chol yisrael kol dama v'hon d'vishmaya v'imru Amen Yehi shlam arba min shemaya v'chaim aleini v'akol yisrael v'imru Amen Oseh shalom b'imromav Hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Yaseh shalom shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru Amen. We'll remain standing. For those who are staying for dinner, you're going to do this again and there, but we're going to do, on Shabbat, you kind of mark the holiness of Shabbat through lighting candles and through saying Kiddush, over a blessing over wine. But you usually do it over the meal. However, so for those who are staying for the meal, you'll do it in there also. Those not staying for the meal will do it here so that they get a chance to hear it also. So we'll remain standing, page 55. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'hava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maseh v'reshit ki hu yom techila l'mikrei kodesh zecher l'yitziat Mitzrayim Kivanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat L'chaim, to life. And we'll remain standing as we'll continue with Aleinu, page 56. Do you want to come up and help me? You can come up. You want to come up with me? No? Page 56. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הרצון, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים, משתחווים מודים. לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ מושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל ושכינתו זו בגובהי מרומים הוא אלוהינו אינו אמת מלכנו אפסולתו ככתוב בתורתו וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת אינו כן, כבר לך Bottom of page 57, 5 lines from the bottom. כי המלכות שלך היא, ולעולמי תמלוך בכבוד, ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד. ושמו אחד. You may be seated. At this time, we take a moment to remember all those who, though they no longer walk this earth, remain alive in our hearts and minds. As we recognize in the past week, we have observed the yurtzites, the anniversaries of the passings of Mickey Anfinger, Samuel Axel, Mary Berlin, Philip Cohen, Melvin Cohen, Ike Harry Cohen, George Cohen, Ike Copland, Robert Damsky, Margaret Feldman, Saul Fleischer, Dave Friedman, Jesse Ginsburg, Gertrude Goldstein, Nancy Goldstein, Bella Greenberg, Ed Greenberg, Seymour Grodner, Sarah Gross, Max Hallerman, Babs Heilpern, Francis Husid, Marks Hyatt, Alberto Israel, Hyman Jaffe, Arthur Cadis, Beatrice Kahn, Sidney Kaplan, Sidney Kravitz, Edna Lemkin, Abraham Levy, Herbert Levy, Anita Lichter, Bertha Lurie, Esther Marks, Ben Mendelsohn, Harold Michelson, Suzanne Moyal, Emmanuel Newman, Norman Neeren, Rachel Permut, Nell Portnow, Werner Reese, Jenny Reitman, James Rogers, Charlotte Schiff, Geneva Stein, Rose Steinberg, Monzi Terrell, Pearl Tropper, Michael Ustan, Carol Tuck, Fanny Weintraub, Annabelle Wilk, Sarah Winograd, Ida Fisher-Zeidman, and Jay Ziff. We also mourn the recent passing of Raina Tuck as well. Zichronam Livracha, may their memories be a blessing. As we invite those in mourning and those observing yurtzites to join in the Mourner's Kaddish, page 58. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, v'arma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agalau v'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam l'amei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipahar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei d'kudsha b'rechu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Before we conclude, I'm just going to give a couple very, very, very brief announcements. One, for all of our guests here, again, welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. It's wonderful to be able to celebrate Shabbat with you and to welcome it in together and to have this community here. So we're glad you're here, and thank you for joining us. For our normal regulars and our normal congregants, again, always lovely to see you and glad to sing along with you as well. For those who would like and who are curious, I'll stick around here for a few minutes right after services. If you have any questions, anything you want to know about, I'll be happy to answer questions. I know there were a request or two to look at the Torah. I can show a little bit then, but we'll do that at the end of service. So feel free to come in, and then we'll go into the Cultural Center for dinner right after that. Anything else you'd like to say, Joyce? Well, thank you, Joyce. I want to. Well, I also want to say thank you to you, Joyce. I want to say thank you to you, Joyce, for organizing this and for partnering with us and being here and being a valuable part of our community. So thank you for using us to partner with you and to be a part of this. We're glad to do so. We'll go ahead and conclude our service this evening on page 62. Maimonides, a medieval rabbi who was one of the most prominent rabbis in Jewish history, wrote that there are 13 principles of faith that every Jew must believe in. I once taught a whole article that says that's absolutely not true, and there are very prominent rabbis who disagree with like 11 of the 13 principles. But neither here nor there. The song we'll conclude on is Yigdal, which is a poetic rendition of those 13 principles. So we'll conclude with that, page 62. יגדל אלוהים חי וישתבח, נמצא ויהנת אל מציאותו, אחד ואין יחיד כייחודו, נעלם וגם אין סוף לאחדותו. אין לו דמות הגוף ואינו גוף, לא נערוך אליו קדושתו. כמונו כל דבר אשר נברא, ראשון ואין ראשית לראשיתו. הינו אדון עולם וכל נוצר, יורה גדולתו ומלכותו. שפע נבואתו נתנו, אל אנשי סגולתו ותפארתו. לא קם בישראל כמו שעוד, נביא ומביט את אמונתו. תורת אמת נתן לעמו אל, על יד נביאו נאמן ביתו. לא יחליף האל ולא ימיר דתו, לעולמים לזולתו. צופה ויודע סתרנו, מביט לסוף דבר בקדמתו. גומל לאיש חסד כמפעלו, נותן לרשע רע כרישתו. ישלח לקץ ימין משיחנו, לפתות מחכה קץ ישועתו. מתים מחייל ברוב חסדו, ברוך הדהיד שם תהילתו. מתים יחייל ברוב חסדו, ברוך הדהיד שם תהילתו. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Wishing you a peaceful and a restful Shabbat. Baruch Tiyah. I think the kids ran out, but if they come back and would like a Shabbat treat, I have Shabbat treats for them, so tell them they're welcome to come back. If anybody else wants a Shabbat treat, you can get one to take with you too. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. By the way, they're welcome to come up here if they want to be up here. This is their synagogue too. It's their synagogue too. So they're welcome anywhere in this room, and they're welcome to come up here, and if they want to sing along. Want me to pick them up and then hopefully with them? So they're welcome. In the meantime, I have Shabbat tea if they want to come up. Oh, they're done. Well, it's right before you start the Anochi and the Ten
I think
Commandments.
that's like first, like my thing. Like I think they went to like, and then second
No. I'll try to remember that tomorrow. Thank you. I'm a baseball fan, so the Field of Dreams game was last night, so it's like, if you take it out, they
They
will
will
come.
come, they will come. Well, we'll see. But I know the women in the future want to see it. So if somebody wants to see it, I want them to feel comfortable seeing it.
Shabbat shalom.
Yeah. Hey,
That's right.
Marissa.
If I can help at all with anything, let me know. Give me a call. I'm here to help.
See the trailer? Okay.
My card, I don't have it on me, but before you leave, it's by the front door.
Went out to get a hold of you. I'm actually one of the Christian clergies, so it took me back to school. It's like, oh my goodness, I missed all of this. This is very nice.
Thank you. I'm glad you're here.
Now, you transferred from what state?
So I was from Savannah.
Oh, okay, okay.
We like the city.
Any relationships in Dallas, in Texas you have?
I have a friend in Dallas.
We have an annual interfaith at the Jewish Temple, and usually one of the ones that speak and say, "Oh, it's interfaith." She said, "You go speak."
I think my friend Ari Sunshine is there. So, y'all wanted to see Torah, right? Okay. So you guys actually came for a good time. Came at a good time. So this is a Torah scroll. This is kind of hand-carved wood, and this is animal skin that it's written on, and this is all handwritten with a special ink and usually a quill pen. Let me see. So, and actually, you came for a good time. You chose a good time to come because right here is the beginning of the Ten Commandments. So it begins right here, and then one of the central things that we say is the Shema. If you noticed, we said Shema Yisrael when I covered our eyes. That's right here, right there. So we get both of them in our Torah reading tomorrow morning. Parshat Ve'et Hanan. So the Torah. We read this throughout the year, from Genesis, the beginning of Genesis through the end of Deuteronomy, and it's split up into weekly readings called Parshiot or Parsha. So that's she asked what Parshat is, and each one is named after the first significant word in it. So a lot of them begin V'yidaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, like God spoke to Moses saying. None of them are called V'yidaber because there's so many verses that say that, but it's like whatever comes after that sometimes. But the first significant word after that. So there's lots of interesting things. I could go on for days about it, but all handwritten, and there's certain places, like there's a number of lines you have to have in each column, and there's certain places that you have to end where it's open, and certain other ones where it's closed, like that. But if you notice, there's just letters, whereas if you look there, you'll see like there's dots around the words.
See these up here, these tiny lines?
Those are the vowels.
These lead you in how to pronounce the vowels, a short versus a long.
So these little dots and things are vowels, but you don't actually, in typical, like even if you go to Israel and open up a regular novel, you don't write the vowels in, you just kind of know that they're there. So this is the same way, is that you read it without knowing. So I mean, for the most part, I could probably read most of this without knowing what the vowels are, but sometimes it gets a little tricky, and
But it's
there's
even
reference books.
a little bit of a different language
Yes.
than
Modern Hebrew and Hebrew.
Yes, modern Hebrew. So this Hebrew, that Hebrew, and modern Hebrew are slightly different languages. So, and there's variations within there. but This is biblical Hebrew. Yes.
very biblical.
That would probably call rabbinic Hebrew,
Okay, and that's
and modern Hebrew is kind of what we speak now. Yes.
like if you go hear people on the street.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for our kids, when they're studying and preparing for their bar mitzvah, when they are learning how to stand up here and do what he did, well, not what he'll do